It's no secret that we here at Shut Up and Sit Down consider Czech designer Vlaada Chvátil the foremost mind working in table gaming today. Rumours abound that he was abandoned at birth and raised by a pack of wild board games.
Yes, and among the many gifts that he's given us are Space Alert, a real-time game of flying a pseudo-Soviet spacecraft bin. Galaxy Trucker, a game where players build an intergalactic convoy out of a scrapyard of sewer pipes. Dungeon Pets, a hilarious game of raising baby dragons and vampires, cleaning up their poop for years and then watching them escape the night before their sale. Bunny Bunny Moose Moose, a physical game of pretending to be wildlife that we like so much that I wrote our entire review in verse. And Mage Knight, where Vlaada proved he didn't have to be funny by crafting a complex, rich and overblown wizard simulator that could easily have been called a game of 2012. Now all this isn't just unparalleled innovation and breadth and variation, it's also unheard of consistency. All of these games are good or great. But that didn't stop us from being a bit nervous when an abstract game was announced. Vlaada doing an abstract game? An abstract game? Vlaada doing an abstract game? Vlaada doing an abstract game?
An abstract
Vlaada
game?
doing an abstract game?
I don't want to wait for our lives to be... Oh, what the hell? Vlaada's going to make an abstract game.
Okay, but surely all games are abstractions.
You might think so, Paul, but abstract games are a genre where luck and theme have nothing to do with strategy. For example, why can the rook move in chess?
Well, but...
Trick question, old friend. The rook used to be a chariot.
Yeah.
In fact, the reason the words rook and checkmate make no sense is because they're corruptions of the original Persian words.
Okay, but Quinns, I don't want to play an abstract game. You know the kind of people who play abstract games, you know what they're like. Oh, well done! That's 16 lateral vectors to you! Now token collection can begin.
I can't pseudo-grok the semi-sequence until I return to the scoring hemisphere.
Oh, but you know what that means then.
Another draw! I'll cross-reference the victory integers on the points protractor.
It's log to pi again. Your tetracausal tactics were amazing. I think they've granted you pre-victory in the next 6 rounds. Theoretically.
You know what we should do now, though? We should watch Shut Up and Sit Down's new review. I hear they review an abstract game called Tash-Kalar. I wonder what they shall think.
I wonder what we shall think of what they shall think.
What do you think?
I wonder what you'll think of what I think. Are you okay?
Yeah, wait, we're a review inside a skit, inside a flashback, inside a...
It'll be fine, it's fine.
I just don't want to get lost again.
So in the game of Tash-Kalar, you play the game of Tash-Kalar in the arena of Tash-Kalar. The game itself couldn't be simpler. Whether you're playing Deathmatch or the High Form, your objective is to either smash your way through your opponent's pieces or to score victory points by completing certain objectives that might be occupying parts of the board or creating certain patterns as you play. Now on your turn you can do one of 2 things twice. One of those could be to put down one of your pieces anywhere on the board like you might do in Go, or the other one could be to summon a creature forth if you formed the pattern on that creature's card with your pieces. Now, this causes them to burst forwards in a kind of a belch of magic, and then they do a particular thing. They do that once, it causes something to happen in the arena, and then they go away again, they disappear. And then at the end of your turn, if you have played one of these creature cards, then you draw another one because that's gone.
Let's say you're playing the barbarian-y Highland School, okay? With a bit of work, you'll already see how you can summon an Eagle Lord, a War Drummer, a Legend Slayer, okay? Now, if Tash-Kalar's going to hook you, it will do so within the first 2 minutes, alright? It's hypnotizing to look at these patterns and mirror them and try and figure out how you can see them and make them on the board. Now, let's say you do a bit of work, okay? Here's the other way the game's going to hook you. You start building. You see how you're going to attack. You place a token here and a token here. And your opponent starts building. And he does something like, a gun tower, which he puts down his veteran rock, and suddenly it just shatters all of your stones. Now you've got 2 options at this point, each seductive and a bit scary. The first is to stand your ground and fight an opponent who has more stones, who is readier to make patterns than you. The other is to start a fight elsewhere and get that all-important first move in another section of the board.
Now this game has got Vlaada's fingerprints all over it. For example, the flare cards, each player gets one of these. And they're a balancing mechanic. The idea is you can play them in addition to your other actions if your opponent outnumbers you in the arena by a certain number of tokens. They work very well. There's also legendary creatures, creatures so powerful and old that the magic to summon them is shared by everyone. Now they would be difficult to call forth, except for the fact that you're constantly making so many crazy shapes and combinations. You'll be able to sooner or later, and they do really devastating stuff, they do dangerous things, and they're very, very cool. This kind of almost comedically maximalist design with all these extra elements thrown in and working really well together, well that's kind of Vlaada all over.
The whole game is basically Vlaada all over.
Yes, it is, and we begged forgiveness at the Church of Vlaada for ever having any doubts.
Oh, Paul, I don't want to go deeper. Forgive us for our sins, Vlaada.
Oh!
So here's the thing about Tash-Kalar. It harvests the best parts of abstract games and throws the rest away, as if Vlaada himself were curving up a cardboard turkey at your table.
Why is mine so much bigger than yours?
Shut up. Forgive us for us. This game goes from its players not knowing how to play to spending whole minutes luxuriating over their next move faster than anything else we've ever played. The strategic equivalent of a sports car going from 0 to 60 in an amount of seconds that are considered fast for a car.
And yet the game doesn't expect you to telescope your moves outward forever because the board changes so quickly. It's about adapting rather than stodgy plotting. That's good. And also because actually an impressive amount of work has gone into pouring theme into these cards. Each faction has its own characteristics and style of play. Each card has its own behaviours. When you summon an infantry commander in the Imperial School, you have a sense of them leading an army. A cannon tower appears and shoots across the board. A bomb, well, blows up everything nearby.
Then we've got all the different factions you can play, different schools of Tash-Kalar, and they're handled with as much grace as everything else. Like, let's take the Highland Barbarian style, okay? There are parallels with the other schools, so the Warlord is like that Imperial Captain we looked at earlier, except he has to attack himself, except he can do 3, not 2 combat moves, except you need more to summon him. And then there's stuff that gives each school its own unique style. For example, the Highland School has eagles that just drop in from nowhere. And also, despite their aggression of trolls, they also have things like the Ritual Keeper. They are the only faction currently that use green and red squares. They have their own arcane ways. Oh, and cutely, there are actually 2 Imperial schools right out of the box, so you can play a game that's more fair if you're really worried about that kind of thing, but also because it accelerates you towards that point where you're starting to memorize one faction's shapes, and you can see your opponent trying to make those shapes, and you can mess them up. And then there's the Sylvan School, and this is...
God, this is where the art just gets
completely awesome!
No! Yeah, the Dryad deck is a bit funny. It's like Fairport Convention meets Playboy, because you've got this kind of sexy fairy queen
but
thing.
Who's to say wood spirits are... Yeah, okay, that's...
Yeah, you see, because
but
of
look
that.
at this. This is like... It kind of looks like Avatar, and they've got big thighs, and there's a buff man as well, so
And
it's
I
fine.
guess there's a kind of a Herne the Hunter thing, or Brian Blessed the Tree.
Yeah, no, but look how creepy this Dryad looks. It's really good.
Broccoli.
That is really adorable.
It's just broccoli. And then there's Britt Eklund, and it's a bit too sexy.
But look here, I'm not the biggest fan of unicorns, but that is an awesome unicorn.
And then, you know, Jedwood. Wood. And then there's this picture, and every time I look at that, I get a kind of, I feel a bit funny. Look at him.
Don't touch him. Well, we can at least agree that the Dyads are the most interesting faction, making these enormous blocks of lush green forest never moving. They have no movement, but if things are stupid enough to be on the periphery of that forest, they can convert them to their colour.
Yeah, and the thing is, although the deck has this theme of colour and dynamism, actually the whole game has that. Sure, people will tell you that chess is an abstract game of being a general and you're doing feints and bluffs and attacking people from the side, but it's kind of bollocks really. It doesn't really feel like being a general, whereas actually this feels much more like that because you're constantly creating formations and pushing your way through the enemy and disrupting their formations when they're vibrating with potential, or you're making risky plays to try and complete something, or maybe really, really subtle moves where you're hoping no one will notice what you're doing until you slotted your final thing in, and that's a chain across the board. So that's three.
It's a
three
complete
victory
chain.
points.
The game can be annoying. We're not going to tell you it's not. If someone finishes some legendary creature that just wipes out everything you're doing, and the next turn wipes out more of what you're doing, you're going to be frustrated. But the game never feels unfair.
No.
For what it's worth, this is also the smartest game we've covered, where you can summon a bone catapult as retaliation for your friend summoning a time mage. But it's still good, so should they buy it?
Well, yeah, you should. You should buy Tash-Kalar, and if you don't like abstract games, it should be the abstract game that you own. It should be the exception in your collection, because although it has complexity and tactics and it's got a lot of intelligence, it's easy to learn, it's easy to teach, and it's a game full of possibilities and different things that
they're going to be
happen.
expanding it. It's going to get better.
Well,
and I was on the fence about this until I found out that it doesn't even stop at 2 players. You can play with 4 players in a really clever deathmatch mode where you have to kill an equal number of every opponent. Then you can play in teams, you can play the high form. It's just interesting.
It's very interesting.
And accessible and more fun than an abstract game should be.
Yeah.
It's
so,
not even
well,
it's not even really an abstract game.
No, don't say that. I knew you were going to say that. Because we've just done the whole review with the concept of it being we did a sketch.
Yeah,
We've
you're
had
right.
to actually jump through reality.
Oh god, where are we? Is this is like a flashback within
No, what?
No, because the flagellating, we were in a...
That was a flashback.
Okay.
But we're now, this is the review, we're now in
Oh,
reality.
God.
Like, everything is solid.
I'm gonna go. I'm just gonna go.
Well, hang on, no, wait, we can fix this. We're in a flashback of a review. What did we do last time things got this?
No, don't say that!
This meta. We did the...
Stop!
And that's why you should consider not buying Settlers of Catan, which we'll be looking at next week with Settlers of Catan next week, where we'll be looking at next week. This has become very odd. I don't like this anymore. You're bleeding on the point protractor.
Oh.
The whole thing is Vlaada all over.
We went to the Church of Vlaada and we bog.
Workers! What the hey? Vlaada's gonna make us shut up and sit down.